Hey everyone, welcome to the Quarter One Family video for fourth grade math. I'm your host, Stephanie Conlon, an elementary content specialist with the Learning and Teaching Department here in CMS, and I want to welcome you to our session today. By the end of our video, I'm hoping that you'll have some answers to these three big questions. What is your child learning in quarter one? What does it look like? And what can you do at home to help? So I'm going to be going through three different units where we'll learn about each of these ideas, and we're going to start by looking at a broad overview of the first quarter. So in quarter one, we start with factors and multiples. A lot of language and vocabulary are introduced in this unit. And then we move into unit two with fraction equivalence and comparison. A lot of the work that fourth graders do build on the work they've done in third grade and build toward the work that they'll be doing in fifth grade. And then wrapping up quarter one, we have unit three, which is extending operations to fractions, and specifically that includes addition, subtraction, and multiplication. So let's jump into unit one now. What is it our students are learning in unit one? Like I said, this unit is all about the language of number characteristics. What makes a number even or odd? Those things that students learn about earlier in second grade, those are the kinds of ideas that students apply now to more sophisticated vocabulary. Students learn about factors and multiples. They learn about the difference between prime and composite numbers. And then they're able to apply that understanding to solve problems like this blue one you see about Marla here at the bottom. So what does this look like? I'm going to take a few moments now and show you how a student might solve a few problems that help them build their understanding about factors and multiples and primes and composites to solve problems. So throughout the work of Unit 1, students learn about the meanings of factor and multiple by relating them to the concept of area. In third grade, students learn that they can count the squares that it takes to cover a rectangle of a certain size, and this one has a width of 2 and a length of 7, so students could count to find out how many squares it takes to cover this rectangle. That would be area. Or they also learned that they could multiply the length times the width and find the area this way. Now we want students to relate the idea of these two numbers being the dimensions of the rectangle to the terms factor or factor pair. So we know 2 and 7 are factors of 14. That makes 2 and 7 a factor pair. So we can say it this way. We could also say 7 times 2, same pair of numbers either way. That also means that 14 is a multiple of 2, and it's also a multiple of 7. So 14 has two factor pairs, 1 and 14 and 2 and 7. Students learn after their exploration with factor pairs and multiples that we would call this number a composite number because it has more than one factor pair. An example of a number that only has one factor pair would be the number 5. So if I build the number 5, I have one way I can make 5 using a factor pair. And that factor pair is just 1 and 5, 1 times 5. I'm showing this to you now because this can be part of the work that you do at home with students. So if there's only one way to make it, and I could make my rectangle go up and down, but it's still just a 1 and 5, 1 times 5, only one factor pair. So we call 5 a prime number. So students learn about factors and multiples and primes and composites by building rectangles, relating factor pairs to side lengths and dimensions of rectangles, and how many different ways they can make these rectangles with specific areas like 14 or 5 in order to reason about these new terms that they're going to learn. And in later sections of the unit, they apply that new knowledge to solve problems. So it's through the work that students had done previously, like I just showed you, that helps them solve problems like the Marla problem in order to think about factors, multiples, primes, and composites in ways that are useful for real life situations. So what are some things that you can do to help at home? Well, for units 1, 2, and 3, I'm going to introduce you to a task that you can try with your students. That's the bright yellow table you see here on your screen. In the purple box, we have some questions that are helpful while students work, and in the green box, there are some solutions. So for this problem, this is very similar to the work students have done and will do in Unit 1. around reasoning about if a number is a factor of a number or a multiple of a number. And the solutions below in the green box really help us think through what we want to hear students say and think about as they're finishing these sentences. So 5 is a factor of 20 because you can multiply 5 times 4 to get 20. So that means 5 is a factor of 20. And 5 is a multiple of 1. There's really not a lot of ways to make 5 using multiplication of whole numbers. And that means 5 is also a prime number. So some of these solutions down here go with the supporting questions over here. Feel free to take a screenshot of this if you would like to, or just return back to the video before you dive into doing this work with students and just make you feel like you've got some tools in your back pocket that'll help your child feel successful at home. Thank you, families, for joining us for our mathematics family video, and thanks for partnering with us at home. We're confident that with your encouragement and support, our young mathematicians will gain a wealth of knowledge and develop a strong foundation in math this year. And for more elementary math resources, you can visit the CMS website. Thanks and have a great year.